everyone. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Woman's Gut. And guess what happens? When there's no Jade, I don't have to race anyone but myself. I started to speed up because in my mind, it was like, you're about to lose. And I was like, against who? And I was like, oh, my own self. That's a battle you always lose, because when you're fighting against yourself, one side of you loses, and when you're just like, I'm a failure, although I succeeded. I'm rambling, and I'm Winona. Wait, no, I am not rambling Winona. I am just Winona. Woo, talk about getting corny. This is why I need Jay. Whoa, that was bad. That was really, really bad. And I thought, ladies, and you know what we do? We write books. Go figure. You show up for an author interview podcast and go, I wonder what the host does. Write books. We write literary life guides with pop poetry. Oh, I said that right. You know, the other day I was writing a letter and I was like, we write living guides. And then eventually I wrote, we write a living will. And I was like, I know I don't do that. So anyway, a living will thing, that's not us. But we do write life guides, which I'm now going to go correct when I get that email, because the person said you're Esquire, and I'm like, no, I messed up. Immediately I was like, autocorrect. Definitely autocorrect. And the books are. And I thought I did wow. And I thought divorce was bad with other life lessons. And I thought being grown up was easy. If only I were me in memoir and verse, Widow Webs, Widow Debt, and Foreign Coffee. All of those books are audiobooks. You can get them wherever you find your, guess what? Audiobooks. If you want to see the rest of the 11 books, plus everything else we do. Wait, I should say that. Plus everything else we do. So if you're sitting there and you're like, well, mathing is hard today because speaking is hard for me today. Mathing would be like 6 plus 11, and ASL, of course, would equal 17. That's 17 books. You can read about the rest of our 17 books at www.andithoughtLadies.com. And since there's no Jade, you know what's about to happen, right? It's about to happen. The car dealership one. It's www.andithoughtLadies.com. I think I landed that.
Perfect.
You're not here to hear about me. You're here to hear about our wonderful guest. Wonderful guest, would you like to introduce yourself?
Well, hello. I'm not sure I can follow up that wonderful intro there. And that sounded more like a like a World Wrestling Federation intro than a car dealership. But anyhow, I am Kristine Raymond. It is so nice to be on the show. Thank you for inviting me. And 3 things about me. I love Earl Grey tea, any variety, but my go-to is actually Earl Grey green, but I love Earl Grey tea. I am currently expanding my garden. I'm planning to triple the size that it was last year. So we'll see if that actually happens. A lot of that's going to depend on the weather, and a lot of it's going to depend on my stamina. And third, I write books. Well, I do write books. I'm not, we'll go into it later. I do write books, almost as many as you guys have out. I have 16 out, so pretty close. Yeah.
Yes. I'm loving this. I want to start with the books, but forget that. What's in the garden?
Well, what will be in the garden is beets, cabbage, tomatoes, eggplant, zucchini, yellow squash, tons of herbs. In fact, I have one whole bed that I'm just going to plant dill, because dill is my favorite herb. What else am I planting? Potatoes. What else am I planting? I'm actually doing herb wheels where I have these giant rings, and I've seen pictures of them where people get it like an old wagon wheel, and you plant a different herb in the spokes. So I'm kind of doing that, and I have 5 of those rings. So I'm going to plant like this big, huge herb, medicinal herbs and culinary herbs. So yeah, and then a few years ago I got into, it's called hugelkultur gardening, and if you're not familiar with it, it's sort of like a mix between raised bed and the word went out of my head, so I don't know. It's a mixture. What it is you dig a pit and you put logs in it, and then you put branches on top of that, and you fill in with the sod, and you just keep building it up as high as you want to build it. You can make it as long and as wide as you want. And the principle behind it is that as the logs and sticks and compost and all break down, they feed the garden. So it's just constant nutrients into the garden. And also it holds on to water really well, especially after the second year. So you don't have to water as often, and which are things that I really like. So last year I put in two 4x8s or 4x12? Anyhow, two pretty big beds. And it is the best garden production I've ever had in my life. It was amazing. I live in Kentucky, and we do get really, like, our temperatures can be really weird in the fall. I harvested eggplant in November out of these gardens. It's because they're raised gardens. They keep everything warmer, because all of that stuff is decomposing, and it just, yeah. So this year I'm sorry?
It generates the decomposition process with the bacteria would generate its own heat.
Yep. So you can plant earlier, you can harvest later. I didn't weed at all. There was no need to weed because, again, because it's raised up, there really isn't anything to grow as far as weeds and stuff, unless, birds drop a seed or something. And again, in Kentucky, in July, it gets really hot here. I think I only watered 4 times last summer.
Oh yeah, right, because the moisture would be locked in too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it's like an underground greenhouse.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing. And you can go online and find out all sorts of stuff about it. And some people build them really high. Some people build them like 6 foot high. I don't. Mine were about 3 foot tall. But the other thing about it is you can plant on all sides. You're not just planting down the center. You can plant on the side because you kind of hill it. And it was just amazing. So I'm really, really into hugelkulturing. And my plan is to put 8 more in addition to the 2 I already have, but we'll see. I already did one for strawberries, because we're going to just have one that's a strawberry. So that one's already done. But anyway. Nice. And so that's why I'm not writing. Because I'm hugelkulturing.
We're doing research for the next writing. I mean,
yeah.
There's so much you could do with that. I mean, it's a writer's dream.
I know. And what's funny is because I moved from romance to mysteries, cozy mysteries. Every time I dig one of the pits, I'm looking at it going, I could put a body in there.
Right? Oh my word. When you said it, that's immediately what I thought. I was like,
it's like, I hope the neighbors don't drive by and wonder what's going on.
That's what my assassin does now. He's a hugelkulturer.
There you go. There you go.
Exactly. So as a narcissist, I'm going to tell you about my garden.
Yeah, I want to hear.
Oh no. I hate it because I care about it. But let me just say, in 2020 and 2019, I was happy I did, because everyone's talking about food supply, plenty of food.
Yep.
The other cool thing that's in my garden is I have a pear tree and a blueberry bush.
Yes.
And I do love some homegrown potatoes.
Yep.
Yeah.
I have, my blueberry bushes are kind of my pride and joy. I've got 5 of them. In fact, we're supposed to have freezing temperatures this weekend, of course, at night, which means I have to wrap my blueberry plants because they're already flowering. But yeah, I love my blueberry plants. Isn't it the best to just go out and pick fresh blueberries? And what people don't realize is the growing season, again, at least here, I'm not sure where you're located, but the growing season here is long. Like I can pick 6 weeks of blueberries. And then I've got a variety that's ripens in like late August. So I kind of have my June, July berries, and then I have that other one that ripens in August. And please don't ask me what variety is, because I have no idea.
And something really great because where I live, there's just a ton of blackberry and raspberry bushes that grow wild anyway. So we have blackberry and raspberry, but you have to be concerned because it's poison ivy with said blackberry and raspberry.
Oh yeah.
And my daddy always calls them the snake berry. I have not seen a snake with the berries, but he swears every time he goes picking blackberries, he sees a snake. That is so true for him because, you know, he'll go pick blackberries and then you come back and you'll be like, why is there a snake there? But, so you put the two together and you make yourself a lovely wine.
Yeah. Oh, I bet that is good.
Aha. Makes a great wine.
Yum.
We'll do with them in the fall. You're like, I have them. They can't go bad. And the wine bottle you go. Put the cork back in. Yeah.
Cool.
Aerate, put it back in. Eventually, you got yourself some wine in a couple of months. Anyway, not important because none of this has to do with books. So let's talk about what kind of books you write.
Well, I started out writing historical Western romance, and that's my Hidden Springs series. There's 9 books currently. I do have the idea for a 10th in the works. It's kind of one of those that I sort of thought it would be out by now, but I haven't actually started it, but all the ideas and stuff are up here. So eventually it'll be out. And when I was, I think 4th or 5th book into that series, I got kind of burnt out on the historical aspect. You know, when you're typing, it's kind of like, oh, you mean I can't put a cell phone in 1867? You know, it's so I switched to contemporary romance and sort of went back and forth with contemporary and finishing up the Hidden Springs series, or what I thought was finishing up the Hidden Springs series. So I have the Celebration series is contemporary romance, and it's a trilogy, and I do have an idea for a 4th book. I have lots of book ideas, but each book is after takes place on a holiday or around a holiday. So there's By Dawn's Early Light, 4th of July, Reservations for Two, which is Valentine's Day, and Under the Mistletoe is Christmas. But what's really neat and how that all started was By Dawn's Early Light was originally written as part of an anthology, and it was going to be a standalone. I wrote it. I thought, okay, one and done. Let me get back to Hidden Springs. And one of my readers, and I absolutely adore her, she's actually a beta reader for me now. She kept pestering me. We, you know, I need more. I need more about the other characters. I'm like, no, I never intended to expand it. It's just a single book, you know, no. And the more she kept at it, finally I was like, you know what? So the Celebration series was born, and it's about a small town in anywhere America called Celebration. And it's as kind of, I don't know, it's so much as a twist, but it's the main characters are actually 3 men, and it's more about their romances, the women they fall in love with, whereas a lot of romances are more about the woman and then her falling in love. So you know, the 3 are best friends, so they're kind of intertwined. You can read them independently, but I always think you get more from a story if you start from the beginning. And I apologize because I really feel like I'm rambling. But I also wrote Seasons of Love, which is got to be one of my favorite compilations that I've done. Seasons of Love is 4 stories in one book. So it's the book itself is called Seasons of Love. The 4 stories are Dogwoods in springtime, Seashells in summer, Aspens in autumn, and Snowflakes in winter. Excuse me. And each story ties a character into one of the other stories. So it kind of goes full circle. And it takes place over the course of a year. So each story is 3 months of the year. And that was just really fun for me to do, to say, okay, so I've got Caroline in the first book, and I brought her, there's a mention of her sister and her brother-in-law. And then I was like, let me write the next story about what her sister's doing. And then it just went on, and I don't know, that one I really, really love. And then I wrote an erotic drama, which was completely out of character for me. Warned my mother not to read it. It's that kind of book. She read it anyway. Couldn't wait to call me up and chew me out. Like, I can't believe my baby wrote that. But it's pretty spicy. And that one is a one and done. That was just something that was in me that I had to write. And then after all that, I said, you know what? I'm going to try cozy mystery. And I wrote Finagled. And I absolutely adore my character, Finn Bartusiak. And there are many books planned for that series. The second book is a work in progress. It's been a very long work in progress, but it's there. So yeah, that's kind of, and in all of that, I also wrote just a little anecdotal short about my first year as an indie author. So I kind of write a little bit of everything.
How you got published, but now I know. So I don't even have to worry about how you got published. So I do have to ask, what advice do you have to give to any writers out there right now that are thinking about, no, I lied. I'm asking a different question first.
Okay.
Choose indie instead of trying to do traditional. And before you answer that, I need to say, because my brain is a little scrambled today. It's like eggs, no cheese. Scrambled eggs, no cheese. I find romance writers to be some of the most amazing writers in the world because, as everyone in my audience knows, I tried writing one. It took 8 years. It was horrible. Okay, now we can know about your indie story travels journey.
Honestly, I went indie because I have control issues. And I want to control every part of the process. I want to choose. In fact, I design my own covers now. I want to make my own covers. The titles are really important to me because the title is as much of the story as the story itself for me. That's as the author. And I know that with traditional publishers, an author doesn't necessarily have a say in those kind of things. I have a very dear friend who is with a traditional publisher, has been for decades, and she'll come up with a title and the publisher will decide that that's not really necessarily what they think the audience is going to like. And so they change it. And to me, that would, I don't know, that's kind of a make or break for me. Mm-hmm. And so it's not just those two things, but it's the entire process. Obviously, I cannot hit a deadline because I've been promising books now for 2.5 years. So, that's kind of another thing. It's just everything. I enjoy every part of it. I enjoy almost every part of it, of the process, but I really like having that control over my own work. And that's kind of, honestly, I don't want to talk negatively about myself or put this out into the universe, but I honestly doubt a traditional publisher would be interested in what I write, just because I don't write to market. I don't follow rules. I write what I want to write and I put it out there. And if readers like it, enjoy it, that's awesome. There are plenty that don't. And you can go look at my 1-star reviews and see that. And I'm okay with that because we're not built to like everything. That's why there's such a variety of things. That doesn't mean that something you don't like is bad. It just means that it's not your taste. And it took a little while, but after 8.5 years, I'm okay with that. And I'm okay with writing what I want to write. And I just really don't want to be told what to do is what it comes down to. I'll be perfectly honest. Well, I was going to say, so to go to your second question, my advice for new authors, or even authors that have been doing this for a while and questioning themselves, you are going to be subjected to tons of advice by well-meaning people who will pass on what works for them. And I think that's great because I have learned a lot. I've picked up on tips and ideas and things from other authors and people in the business. I think what's important not to do is not to get caught up and question how you're doing it, because it's okay that your process is different from someone else's. So I hear a lot of, you're supposed to write this way, or, okay, I'll throw this out here. And this is kind of like, I'm not sure it's a big debate anymore, but the Oxford comma. Should you use an Oxford comma? Should you not use an Oxford comma? I use an Oxford comma. I know it's not, what's in style right now, but I don't care. That's how I learned how to write, and that's what I use. And I'm okay with that. And so, but it'd be really easy to get caught up in, I'm doing it wrong. I shouldn't be doing it this way. Nobody's going to like my books because I put a comma there or didn't put a comma there. And I'm using the comma as an example, but it could be anything. There's just so much advice out there. And again, I appreciate the advice, but you really have to learn how to filter what you're hearing. So I always say, be open, listen to everything, be aware of the opportunities out there that other people have to offer based on their experiences, and then follow your gut. Do it your own way. Do what is authentic to you. And that's the best advice I can give, because it will drive a person crazy trying to do something like someone else. I'm not you. You're not me. You don't write the way I do. I don't write the way you do. And that's okay. And I just, yeah, I think that's kind of my biggest thing. And I've been caught in that loop many times, actually. It's not like I sit here and go, oh, I'm above it. I get sucked into that vortex on occasion where it's like, you see somebody and they're doing something, or they offer a piece of advice, and maybe you try it and it doesn't work for you. And then you start questioning, okay, so why isn't it working for me? They do this. Here's another example. I hear this a lot, that if you want to be a serious writer, you have to write every day. You have to write every day. That's the only way you're a serious writer. There are authors out there that live by that. And that's great for them. I'm not putting anybody down for their methods. It's not me. Because if I'm not feeling that in here, like I said, I can have the ideas up here, and I do. I have written down 36 story ideas with characters, plot lines, the whole thing, titles. I have plenty of ideas, but if I'm not feeling it here, I can't write. And I've tried this sit down, make yourself sit down. You have, it's you're teaching your brain all of that. No, because what I end up writing is pure, not sure. Yeah. I don't, what I use on the garden for compost, it's not any good. And that, when I write something, and I'm not talking, first draft versus polish it up. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about writing words that are absolutely horrible and don't do anything to move the story forward. And when I write those kinds of things consistently, I start feeling very bad about myself. I start doubting myself. I have to remind myself that I've done this 16 times, so I know it's in me to do it again. But it's just, yeah, long, convoluted way to get to it. But new authors, existing authors, just follow your gut. You know in here, what you want to write. Don't worry if somebody reads it and says that it's not, it's not to market, or it doesn't make sense. Oh, yeah, well, yeah, even that. If you have confidence in the story you're telling, tell it. Now, if everybody who reads it says it doesn't make sense, you might have to step back and look at it. But don't let that one negative comment be the thing that sucks you down. Anyway.
Exactly. I agree, because I mean, a lot of times we have to go to critique groups, and when you're there, all of a sudden it just feels horrible because people don't like it. But you have to remember that you are the author of the book. Granted, you are right. If everyone says it's horrible, you
might want to look at it, but you also have to look at who you're asking. See, that's one of the things. That's another thing that I hear a lot of is, as an author, you have to find your readers. I tend to disagree a little bit. I think readers need to find me. And I'm not saying that in an egotistical, oh, look at me, everybody should flock to me. I don't mean it that way. Readers know what they like to read. And so I think they're the ones that need to say, I like this style of writing, because that's the thing. You can, and I'll use my cozy mystery as an example. I could put Finagled out there to, 100 people in a cozy mystery group. And just because my book's a cozy mystery and they're cozy mystery readers doesn't mean that it's necessarily going to jive for them. Again, it doesn't mean it's a bad book, doesn't mean it's poorly written, doesn't mean it's a bad story. I have my own voice. It's my unique voice. And those people might not like the way I tell my story. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's what I think the author community has to get past. It's okay if not everybody likes your book. It doesn't mean that it's bad. There are a lot of authors out there, both indie and mainstream, traditionally published, that I know write, and I'm not calling anybody out. I've said this before in interviews. I'm not a fan of Stephen King's. I'm not a fan of Stephen King's writing, I should say. I like a couple of his movies, and there are a few books. Honestly, The Stand is my favorite book by him. There are a few books by him that I like, but overall, his voice, the way he tells a story, doesn't appeal to me. Now, Stephen King is like, who on this planet doesn't know the name Stephen King, And I'm not saying he's a bad writer by any means. That's not even, no. It's just, there's something about the style in which he tells his stories that doesn't appeal to me. And so I'm not his reader. Like it doesn't matter if I read, books in that genre. I'm not his reader. And that's for me to go out and say, okay, who are the authors that I like to read? Who are the authors where their voice connects with me? And I think that's really important, that, yeah, we do want to get our books out there, but to target a group, I think is really limiting for us as authors. And the other thing too, I read a variety of genres. I'm not a romance reader or a thriller reader or, true crime, or I read a little bit of everything. If a book sounds good, but most importantly, if I connect with that voice, then that's what I like.
I love this. I love this a lot. I've thoroughly enjoyed you talking about books and writing and the advice and gardening. Oh, gardening. But I think it's come to that time where we need to tell people where we can find out about, wait, I lied. It's almost that time.
Oh, wow.
I know that you had a podcast in the past. Can you tell us why you started and what we can look forward to listening to in the archives?
Sure. My podcast is Wordplay with Kristine Raymond, and it started on a whim. I love promoting other authors and talking about other authors more than I like talking about my own works. And I literally woke up one morning, looked at my husband and said, I think I want to start a podcast. And he said, okay. And I kind of just dove head on into it, had no idea what to do. It didn't listen to any podcasts, had never heard a podcast, didn't know anything about it, which is how I do most things in my life. And it ran for a little over 2 years. And all of the episodes. There's 231 episodes, I believe, 231 authors and or bookish people that I spoke with. I say it's on hiatus because I've learned to never say never in this industry. So at some point in the future, I may start it up again. But right now it's still available out there. You can listen to it on any platform. I know it's, on Amazon and Spotify and iHeartRadio and Apple and, all the places that you listen to podcasts. And I really don't have a favorite episode. I mean, everyone I spoke to, it was just such a joy. It actually exhilarated me to hear about their process. And now I am gonna take a little part of that back, because I can't say it's my favorite episode, but the one that meant the most to me was I got to interview one of my biggest author idols, Sandra Brown.
Woo!
Yes. And she is the most delightful lady. And I was thrilled when she accepted my invitation to come on the show. And it was, I fangirled a little bit. I really did. But again, all of my authors, all of my guests, they're wonderful, because what it comes down to also is, yes, there are some authors who have earned the awards and consistently hit the bestsellers list and have sold millions of copies, but we all do the same work. Mm-hmm. We all sit down, we all pour our heart and our soul and our guts out onto the page, and then we screw up the courage to actually put it out there. And we're all ones who took the chance and said, I'm going to do this. I'm going to put it out there. And everybody, anybody, any artist who has ever put anything out, whether it's an author or an art, a painter or a musician, whoever, we know how harsh the critics can be, So to say, this book is my soul and I'm going to put it out to be judged, that's just admirable, whether you're Sandra Brown or you're someone who has just hit publish on their book right now.
Yep. Yes, I agree. Okay, now where can people find out how to buy these books and read them?
Best thing to do is to go to my website, which is www.KristineRaymond.com, and that is Kristine with a K. And you can find links to all of my books there. You can find a page that lists all of the episodes of the podcast with links to listen to those episodes. I have some other stuff thrown on there. Honestly, it's been a while since I've been on my website. I know this is horrible to say. The past 2 years has been kind of, I didn't intend to stop writing. It wasn't a conscious decision where I woke up one day and just said, I'm not going to write anymore. That's not what any of this is. But for whatever reason, over the course of the last 2 years, my energies and my focus have been on other things. And again, story ideas are still here, and I still pull up a manuscript, of Finicky Eaters. I've been talking about it for 2.5 years. I still pull it up and I add a scene here or a sentence there or change this. It's still there. But yeah, I have slacked off. So it's really exciting to do this interview, because I told you at the beginning, I haven't done an interview in well over a year. In fact, maybe even 2 years. I think I did a few in 2020, but I kind of feel the juices stirring a little bit to get back into this.
I'm so excited that you have the juices flowing and that we can see some books at KristineRaymond.com, not with an S, KristineRaymond.com. And
right.
you can also I think you can see some of the archives there. You go to the podcast, go down to the thing, and it says it has its own website, and you click there, and then you can get to the archive.
Yeah, you can listen to all links to all the episodes of the podcast are there. And again, such talented authors that I got to chat with, and some beta readers. I mean, I didn't just limit it to authors. My formatter, who that's the one thing I don't do myself. I don't format my own books, and I absolutely love my formatter. I'll give a shout out, Paul Salvet, BB eBooks, wonderful formatter. So I even had him on the show.
You got
Dave
it.
Chesson from Kindlepreneur. I mean, it was Mickey Mickelson from Creative Edge Publishing. Yeah, it's just, or Publicity. I'm sorry. So yeah, it's a wonderful community. You know, it really is. And like anything, there's always that kind of bad pool over here that you want to stay away from, kind of that murky sort of swampy stuff that you don't want to get involved with. But overall, it's such a great community, and people just want to help each other. They really do want to help you succeed. And I think that's what we all should do. Again, don't feel like you have to do something or do it the way someone else is. Find what really brings you passion and joy, and whether it's podcasting or editing or beta reading or whatever it is, blogging, and use that. If that's how you feel you should do it, don't let anybody tell you not to. Just do what you want.
All right, so you know where to find her at KristineRaymond.com. Let's repeat where to find me, because as the narcissist of this group, I got to tell you where to find me. Okay, now you can find out everything you ladies are doing at www.andithoughladies.com. While you're there, go down to the middle of the page. Yes, no longer at the bottom of the page. It's moved up to the middle of the page. And you can see the charities that we proudly support. We do ask that you take some time out, give them a little help, because these are difficult times, not only for us as authors, but for them as well. And we thank you in advance for doing that. And remember, you guys, that wisdom is all around you if you're open to finding it and accepting it. So peace and love, you guys, from Winona and the Missing Jade. Oh, yeah. Thanks for listening.